A penalty, and I think rather fortunately.
Zidane, on the last occasion he took a penalty, whacked it hard to the goalkeeper's right. And if you remember, the Portuguese goalkeeper, Ricardo, got a hand to it. It's Zinedine Zidane.
We're sorry to interrupt your current programming for a very special report.
Today's broadcast is about environmental refugees, also known as environmental migrants. They are people who have fled their homelands for many reasons, as both sudden and long-term changes have happened in its environment.
The famine in Somalia was a prime example of the long-term deterioration of the environment. Food in Somalia was scarce for a couple of months up until the start of the famine, and the famine was expected to be imminent. The biggest field in Somalia is agriculture, so when the food shortage began, the country's citizens were fleeing to neighboring refugee camps in places like Dadaab, Kenya. When environmental refugees migrate to a country, it costs the government a lot of money to support them and give them the basic necessities of life. A solution to the problem would have been to receive financial aid when the deterioration of the land was first conceived.
The most frustrating part of this disaster is that it was totally preventable. Warning was given long before the actual famine occurred, and the global community should have acted. Other examples of situations in which environmental refugees were created include natural disasters, droughts, desertification, wars, and weather pattern disrupts such as monsoons. The devastating earthquake which occurred in Haiti in 2010 was another prime example of how people were fleeing to first world countries in order to stay alive. Unlike the situation which occurred in Somalia, the global community wasn't expecting a disaster to occur. As a result, the earthquake shattered many buildings and homes throughout the land, most of which weren't protected.
Both of these examples show situations where the environmental migrants were forced to be created. The first event was a long-term change in the land, whereas the second situation shows a short-term but major change in the land. Both situations may not have been prevented, but at least the outcome could have been softened. In the first example, Somalia could have requested aid before the famine was declared. With some aid, the citizens may have had a higher life expectancy as the famine happened. In the second example, structure should have been built so damage and casualties could have been lessened.
Not all environmental refugees have directly been originated from natural causes. Global warming and pesticides have caused a lot of people to migrate from their homeland. Global warming, caused by a sharp increase in carbon release, has melted ice caps and glaciers in northern Canada, where people live. The excess water has destroyed natural ecosystems, and animals which the humans rely on die. Carbon is released from burning fossil fuels and large-scale deforestation, both of which are done by humans. With no food to eat, the humans are forced to migrate.
However, although the lack of support for environmental refugees is a huge issue, there are still organizations which have been steadily contributing money and resources to unfortunate environmental refugees. Some of these organizations include the World Health Organization and the UNHCR, commonly referred to as the Geneva Convention. However, their support is very limited, and the global community is needed more to give these countries a helping hand. Numerous studies indicate that the number of environmental refugees from climate change alone will be approximately around 150 to 200 million people. The number can easily be reduced, and the global community has the resources to make it happen.
There are currently 3 types of environmental refugees, and they are as follows. Environmental emergency migrants. They are people who flee their homeland temporarily due to a natural disaster or any other sudden environmental event. The second one is environmentally forced migrants, and they are people who leave their homeland due to deteriorating environmental conditions. Lastly, they are also environmentally motivated migrants, and they are people who leave their homeland in order to avoid worse future problems which are environmentally related.
And now let's send over to our eye in the street, Mashkur. So Mashkur, tell us, what are the human causes of environmental refugees?
Environmental refugees are people who can no longer live in their area because of many factors such as environmental hazards, depleting resources, and no sustainable area to live. Most people don't know about this topic because saving them may have to give our easy way of life up. But little do they realize, if that we don't change our very way of life, we will soon become environmental refugees ourselves. This has come to be mainly because of our advance in technology. The use of machinery has created greenhouse gases and leads to global warming, which is one of the biggest issues today. Most people don't see effects beyond the increasing amount of water because of global warming. If this happens, lowland areas such as places near very abundant areas of water will be flooded. And 11 of the 15 biggest cities in the world are near very large bodies of water. People will have to move because if sea level water increases, it will contaminate our drinking water. And we need our drinking water to survive. What we as humans do makes life easier, even if we have to make other people suffer. Now let's send it over to our other correspondent, Aamir.
Now we can look into how the environmental refugees affect both refugees and host nations. The effects can be social, economical, and environmental. Even environmental refugees play a negative role in the environment. The environmental effects can be deforestation, desertification, and degradation of resources in host nations. For example, water supply and places for their inhabitants, as well as social effects like ethnic tension. Effect of large amount of people moving in one area can cause overpopulation in host nations, as well as in refugee camps, which causes pandemic diseases. Human and environmental casualties is a major fact. An example is the devastating earthquake in Haiti, which took the lives of 230,000 and homes of 1 million Haitians. The migration of camps. Because of all these effects, many countries refuse environmental refugees because of the threat of political upheaval. Now down to you, Zach.
Okay, Aamir. So, what are the solutions? I know you must be wondering. Everyone can do their part by reducing greenhouse emissions. According to our research done at the library of the University of Toronto, greenhouse emissions would have to be reduced by approximately 90%. Also, the global perception needs to be changed. A refugee is not just someone displaced by war. A refugee can also be someone displaced by environmental reasons, like an environmental refugee. This is a complex problem. An action plan is needed. Climate change is as real as you and me. And if it's not changed, well, let's not think about that.